Welcome everyone to the Talk to Me United podcast, the podcast about Manchester United tactics. My name is Andy, and opposite side of the screen is Ali. Hull City 2, Manchester United 0. United opened the 2026-2027 season with an L. We will break down the lead up to the goals, look what Man United did right, discuss whether this is a one-off or a concern, and finally, with a week left to the transfer window, do we need reinforcements? So Ali, what are your thoughts after day one?
Yeah, so I think it's quite obvious that with everything that was coming out with the players, there was a lot of ball work and not enough fitness work. And Hull City came with kind of just traditional Prem, like fight, running, switch of play. They really surprised me. And how well they play, man. Just the sort of the triangles in the middle and then the ball out wide and then the balls into the box. They played really well. They defended immaculately. And yeah, I think Carrick and his coaching staff, I think they just went into it a little bit naively in terms of just focusing on ball work. I think that's what's cost us. And we weren't exactly the best at ball work. Like, we had a couple of chances. We'll break them down. But it was, pressing, second balls, things like that is where we kind of lost the game. And we keep getting questioned of, like, how can we break down this low block? And, I think I'm not too worried about that. I'm not too concerned about that. That will come. But it's more so the out of possession work, the press, the intensity, like where this team is, sharpness. The team just isn't sharp right now. And in like a couple of, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, like they'll be up to speed. I think a couple of the other Prem teams are kind of in a similar boat. Yeah, so I think Hull just, they came with that intensity, played really well, and we just went up to par. And you do have to question why there was more ball work. I understand, the World Cup, you want to, ball work is less intense. You don't want to get injuries. And you look at Ahmad, right? Ahmad, he's probably our best presser, and he's out, 6-ish weeks. And, he was probably, doing that in training. The rest of them, they're fine, So, yeah, I think, I also think, I don't know how Cobby was in terms of like freshness. I think he should have started that. I think if you put Santos and Tielemans into that team, like two new midfielders, and I really rate them both, but I think Cobby just gives you that, that like familiarity. A couple of the other players, Sesko isn't up to speed yet. This would have been a perfect game for him to start. And yeah, like obviously Ahmad, would have been nice to see him, but he's injured. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be too worried about it. I was so frustrated full time. I was just very reactionary, very frustrated. And then, like took a breath and I'm just like, okay, yeah, first game of the season. It's just like triggering, isn't it, from like what we've seen before. But yeah, I just think it's just like freshness, and for me that's on the coaches, but I can understand their reasoning. So it's kind of, yeah, I'm kind of like at peace with it now. Just to start the season, have to win, next game really. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
So as I told you over chat, like I feel like this is like a Jose Mourinho type of quote, that it was really a 0-0, draw, that we did not lose, because I feel like those two goals on set piece were just like mental lapses and things of that nature. It was not really about like the structure or anything of that nature, because I felt like other than those two chances, like yes, Hull had their moments, but they were never like enticing to like could win like 4-0. I just felt like they had.
They won 2-0.
They won 2-0, but it felt like it was just like they weren't doing much with it. Like, oh, you know what? At the end of the day, they were the better team. You know what I'm saying? Like they won, they out hustled us, etc. But it felt like if it wasn't for those two, set pieces, it's really a 0-0 game, essentially. Because there's no really other opportunity that they had that would say, hey, they would beat us.
They did. That being said, Le Mans made a couple of good saves. I thought Hull was a better team.
But those saves led up to the goals, especially the first one. He made a nice save.
That wasn't set pieces. Those were in play. So like to say that Hull weren't playing well in possession, I think that's unfair on Hull. I thought they played well in possession when they had.
I just felt like it was like us. Just sit back, hit us on the counter, and try to play out wide.
That's fair. You have to be able to, that's why we got Baleba. You have to be able to deal with that.
Yeah. But other than that, I know you've said many times like you're not afraid or you don't think that we need attackers or so. But I feel like there's no other striker other than Sesko that has like a pure number nine. And I feel like we need to have one of that on the bench when if Sesko's not fit or whatever. Because like you said during the game, you were like, we need Sesko on. This is type of like Sesko game. And a couple of my friends were when we were watching, they were like, we need Sesko, put him on, get him out there. And I feel like that's also like the squad building in terms of like we need help in the striker role because we need a pure number nine, not these, tens or wingers who could play the striker role because I think it just shows in terms of the style and etc. of how we play. But other than that,
Well,
I
just
think we were
quickly on that. So, what would you rather have, a
right.
left back or a striker?
Why not both? But if we had to,
Yeah.
it essentially has to be both.
Well, no, you
I
have to
think
pick
that
one. If you had to pick one.
if we had to pick one, give me a striker.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Give me a
Okay.
striker.
Yeah. I'd rather have a
Please
left
give
back
me.
personally. Yeah. But carry on. Sorry.
Yes, yes, because what's his name is not good enough for it. Basically, in terms of like the press, I'm not too fond of the 4-2-4. Right, I think it's just shown its ugly head in the last three games because they played it. They used it against Leeds. They used it against AC Milan. They used it now against Hull, and I just feel like if you're not committing to pressing, there's no reason to play four in the front out of possession. I feel like you should come sit back and you be more compact and tactical in the 4-4-2. And whether if you want to have set up the 4-4-2 where you're channeling balls into the middle and you'll deal with it, or you would go out, keep it out wide for the crosses. So I think like that needs to be worked out. And I think that we're getting to the point if this continues, maybe they have to select one and go with it, play out and make the ball turn over and do some quick chances there. But I don't know if it's because of the midfield personnel. Well, Yuri did give an interview with Rio a couple weeks ago, and they're like, "We're just working on ball movement and stuff, not on fitness." So I don't know if that's playing into it that they're not going to
I don't
press.
think he should have said
I,
that, man. I don't think he should have
yeah,
said that. That's open a can
and
of
it
worms.
clearly and it clearly shows that we're not,
Yeah.
But when looking at the stats, looking at the data, etc., it just seems like we were fine. Like Tillemans and Santos, from the data, set they did what they had to do, right? But from the eye tests, they look like there's some gaps, etc. But I thought that it's the first game of the season. When I compared it to last season, when we lost 1-0 to Arsenal, I felt like we were better. We were the better team. We just lost on a controversial stuff. This time around, it just feels like we are playing out of the back. We have our patterns. We're trying to do, switch side to side from left back to right wing or right back to left wing, try to open up spaces. And we did get good chances. We couldn't convert. And I feel like it's just another year of the same issue. I know it's one game, but hopefully with the midfield additions and, we can solve it down the road. But I'm not sweating. It's 37 more games, one game down. We're only 3 points back from the top spot. Like it's too early in the season to beat ourselves up. But then looking at the weekend, yes, all the other teams have issues and difficulties, whether it be World Cup or whatever, it doesn't seem like no one's going to run away with this. And I can't even say that Arsenal's going to run away with it just because of the
Really?
fact that it's Coventry City. Frank Lampard is not a good coach and stuff. So jury's still
Hmm.
out.
That's interesting. Because I disagree with that. I think Arsenal are going to run away with it just because it's so different. Like their coaching principles are there, the foundations are there. Theoretically, you would think that we'd be more stable, but I think it's just like the freshness, right? That they're just not sharp enough yet. And again, I'm stuck between, a rock and a hard place because I'm just like, is this like me keeping an eye out on Michael Carrick and being like, are you not able to put some more intensity in the training sessions because you're worried players are going to get, pick up knocks and things? Because had that been in place, we wouldn't have lost this game. I think this was the whole City brought the intensity and we couldn't match it at all. So yeah, I just think it's kind of hard to cast judgment. And I did immediately, right? Like I was very quiet reaction. I was like, this is, because it was not a nice watch. It wasn't a nice watch. And you're finally like, oh, we got a nice midfield. We got a great attack. The defense, look, that's not, I've heard this being going around. That defense is not a title winning defense. We got a decent keeper, But that defense in front of him, Heaven still too young, making mistakes. Maguire, he's actually, he's okay, but you could.
How dare you talk bad about your boy?
Yeah, he's how old is he? How old is he? 19?
Yeah, he's
20?
19.
Yeah, like name another Premier League title contender or anybody that's got a 19-year-old playing in defense. It's unheard of, man. So like he's gonna get better. It's just you can't win a title with a 19-year-old playing centre back, right? And Leacher as well. I don't know. Like that defense is just not good enough, and it's fine. Like we rebuilding the midfield this term, and we got to be looking at centre backs for next season, and then you're like that's a complete squad overhaul, defense, midfield, attack. So
So
I,
I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet that said that we did the defense rebuild when we had Dan Ashworth because he bought Nasraoui,
Mazraoui,
Delid, Heaven, and they considered that as like the first start of the rebuild. So 2 years later, we're rebuilding it again, or
yeah, I
it'll be
mean,
3 years later. But
Heaven was an
it's
investment.
worth it.
Heaven's an investment.
Yes.
Delict is one centre back and a right back. That's not a complete rebuild, right? Like, look, Delict should be starting, man. If he's fit. And I was so excited when he came in, and I didn't realize he was this like injury prone. Another point I do have, and I saw some people talk about this, and I've been thinking about this for a while. Honestly, this is such a massive season for Cunha and Mbumo because we do not know where their level is at right now. Like Mbumo, amazing in the first half of the season, tailed off in the second, and Cunha the opposite, right? Where is their level, right? So like, I want to see it. Champions League, it should be easier. They're going to have more space, but are you the type of player that's going to take the game by the scruff of the neck, like a bit more like Bruno? Like they need to get up to that level, and people they're at prime age as well. They're not like a Sesko that's adapted to the league, or a Dorgu, or a Rashford as well. So it's like, where is your level? That's what I'm going to be looking at this season. So yeah, I'm just curious to see like where they're at. But yeah, because I felt like Mbuma had a couple of good chances, and yeah, I'm hoping he gets sharper. But yeah, I'm not too down over anything. It wasn't the nicest watch, but yeah.
I feel
See.
like I'm gonna go on a Klopp rant about the 12:30, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time kickoffs. It's just like such like a dull against us, and then it
I
also
think if
too
we
is
played
like
at 3 p.m., that wouldn't have made a difference. We were that slow,
or
man.
5:30,
We were too slow.
and it's this. And the bad part is that we're on TV. We're pretty much on TV like 3-4 times, like three times a month in the next couple of in all the way till October. So
There you go.
I think we do face City 12:30 on the. No, sorry, I think it's 11. No, we play them Sunday, 11:30,
Yeah,
4:30 kickoff.
but that's in what, like
That's
3 or
different.
4 weeks. That's fine. Like
Yeah, 3 next weekend.
I don't think they'll be sharp enough for Ipswich, but we're at home, so it's different. It's
Right,
different. And what we got, who we got after that? Evan?
City.
Straight after Ipswich.
Yeah, straight out of switch is
Is it home or away?
away.
Are you sure?
Let me just double check.
I don't know about that. I would prefer it to be away.
Because we're
So then I think it goes. I actually think we are so much better in that mid to low block, and then I think we should just be countering, like, if in that scenario, it's
sorry. Yeah,
at
you're right.
home.
It's
So we
Everton.
got Everton. We got Everton away.
Yeah, away.
Yeah, I think we need to go back to our principles of last season just to get us through these next couple of games, and then once you have Belabor, you can have more of a press going on, and then Tielemans is not ready yet, like out of possession. He's not as bad as he was like against Hull, and like there's a couple of clips of Mbumo, and he's just not sharp enough receiving the ball. And Bruno, he's not at it either. So I think we should just go back to that mid to low block until Balabor's in, and then we're putting so much on Balabor already, but that's why he's at United, man. We got to see what his mentality
That's
is
why we
like.
paid him. That's why we paid for him. So maybe so you're saying that we should go back into the 4-4-2, and then once Baleba comes in, you can expand back out to the
Yeah,
4-2-4.
I think so. I think against Ipswich, it's different because we should have the ball, and I think every one of those like lower teams, they're gonna go into like a 5-4-1, right? And they're gonna be like, break us down. That's where I think Tielemans has to play, and I can see Santos playing as well. But like Baleba could be that your recovery. So yeah, I don't think we're gonna have that much. I say this. Once you have Sesko and Tielemans and Shaw, I can see that being a real threat. Shaw's great delivery, Tielemans has got great vision, and Sesko is going to be a presence in the box. So yeah.
So that's kind of like a perfect segue to my next point, and I can bring it up with the stats that I saw. A tweet mentioned it, and then was looking at the stats again, and it's like it is trying to true what they brought up of like, give me 1 second, with regards to was Cunha and Bruno playing in a false nine, and just looking at the positional map here. So as you can see, what we've been talking about, that in preseason we've seen this of like your two center backs and you have Andre splitting between them. So you can see them hugging on the line. You have Yuri playing up in the middle as that one, and then you can go 3-1-6 at front. And then with regards to that, we see with Cunha and Bruno, they're essentially in that same spot position. And when some of the clips that we saw, it was just that you can see both of them occupying in that false nine space. And I was just wondering if that's going to be a hindrance to both of them. Is this a system flaw? Or what is the situation with regards to that? If this is like a scheme, sorry. But quick thoughts about this?
Yeah, I like the idea. I just think it was against the wrong opponent. Like when you're playing, back five or someone that's as deep as Hull, you need someone occupying, in between two centre backs. And I like, we saw it in preseason, Cunha does drop deep, and then you got, Dorgu and Mbumo on that last line with where all the centre backs are. So I actually like that. I just think wrong opponent. So which is encouraging because there are certain things that Carrick's doing, those boxes, but wrong opponent, I think. And that's why I'm a bit surprised. Carrick, like, he's played in the Premier League his entire career, so he should really know what to expect. But it didn't work this time, and obviously he didn't. Cunha's not going to want to occupy centre backs. That's just not what he is. It goes back to your
Right.
point. Like, you need a striker like that for these types of
Yeah,
games.
and then I was thinking too, with Ahmad being injured, that if that also kind of messed up the game plan for us, because it was a late, like Friday, Saturday morning type, no, sorry, Friday type of injury, like the warm up before day before the match. It was that type of like injury. So I don't know if that kind of messed it up, because I would think that you would have either Brian or Cunha up top with Ahmad on the right wing to help with that press, and I think that might have flowed better. So I don't know if that injury did kind of, messed up the flow of the game plan and the game itself.
Yeah, but I think even if pressing wise, I see your point, but I think in possession, Mbumo, he's not going to dominate defenders. He'll be slightly better than Cunha. I don't think Mbumo plays as false as number 9, but he's I don't think he's going to be that dominant striker that you need against that low block. But yeah, definitely pressing wise, yeah, I can see Ahmad like do a lot better. But against a low block, it's even if you swap and Boomer and Cunha, I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
Fair. I just also like how they were trying to do some balls over the top and thread the balls through the lines past the defenders, and I thought that was, encouraging. And then, another point too is like we were crossing the balls into the box, and then when Sesko came onto the pitch, then we stopped crossing balls into the middle, into the box, and it was like really hard. I was like, guys, you have like a 6 foot something defender. I mean, striker in there. But also, so going down through the stats, one was also another interesting point was the pressing intensity. We look very lackluster, but apparently we still did about 9 presses per pass. So that was quite interesting with regards to that. And then just quickly with this, with our stats, you know, it's a lot of good numbers, a lot of, high passing with accuracies. Duels is the defenders were a little bit shaky, but the midfield held its own. Like Andre got 7 out of 8 of his duels he won. Tillemans was 6 out of 10. Shaw was horrible. Heaven held his own. That's almost 50%. And Maguire did 75. So, when it comes down to this, I think that the stats show that the team is doing what it's supposed to do. It's just that the result didn't happen. And like we said, if it could be formation, it could just be Hull out hustling us. But just something for us to keep in mind as the season goes. And now that we're at home against Ed Sheeran's team, hopefully the things can change with regards to that.